A myth that is a little distressing to me is that CBT involves challenging, disputing, or manipulating people's thoughts and beliefs. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, challenging clients' cognitions, their automatic thoughts and their beliefs, is completely contrary to the very important principle of collaborative empiricism, where the client and the therapist are kind of a team working together to help clients evaluate their thinking, not challenge or dispute it. And often, we don't even know when we hear a given cognition, whether that's 100% true or 0% true or someplace in the middle. And another reason to use Socratic questioning is because we want clients to learn that the skill of using questioning to evaluate their own thoughts. So, there are some thoughts and beliefs that we cover in the session through Socratic questioning. And then usually we have clients summarize that and put down the response in writing so they can read it during the week. We also want them to be able to do the same thing, to use a process of Socratic questioning to evaluate the thoughts and the beliefs that come up during the week that we haven't already addressed. And we want them to use this skill not only when they're still in treatment with us, but it is a skill that people can use for the rest of their lives. Yeah. Occasionally I'll have someone come back who maybe I treated early in my career, maybe 35 years ago or so. And when I ask, what do you remember from what we talked about at that time? Often they'll say, well, one of the most important things I learned was just because I think something doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And I can actually figure out how true it is by, that list of questions that we went over.
And I think that what goes along with this idea of evaluating thoughts, just at the cognitive level, is that oftentimes when we help a client to come up with an alternative way of thinking about things or some other kind of plan, we build behavioral experiments. And in between our sessions, we will ask them to go out and give something a try, to test it out, to see if it is helpful or if it works to accomplish the goals that they're working on in treatment. And again, this is a very collaborative process with them, whereby we're setting something up and we wait for the results. We don't take a position at all. We wait for the results when they come back and tell us how their experiment went.
I did that this week with a client. Her automatic thought was, my friend will be angry at me because I haven't contacted her in 2.5 months. Mm-hmm. So first we looked at the evidence that was likely to be true and not true, and then we decatastrophized it. But what she really had to do was to test that belief by doing a behavioral experiment. Yeah. And we did a little role-playing about how she could approach her friend. And I'll hear the results when she comes back next week.
Great.
Yeah, that's one of the first myths that I think I heard exposed by your father way back when she was saying, he was challenging people. Can you find any place where I said to challenge negative beliefs? Not one place. He said to test them out. And I even heard that sentiment even from David M. Clark. One of his favorite questions, which I take on, is, well, you may very well be right. How can we test that out? How can we test that out? And what you're doing is you're presenting these ideas as being beliefs that can be tested through behavioral experiments, as you mentioned, Alan, and even through other ways of looking at it, as you mentioned, Judy. And that's what we do. We help people test out those beliefs. And it may come out that they're right. They may be right. And then at that point, we can ask, well, what constructively can you do? What constructively can you do? Because sometimes the beliefs that people have, a client of mine had the belief that I'll lose this job. I won't be able to keep my job. Well, you may very well be right. What constructively can you do? She was right. She lost her job. But she was prepared for that. And now that's what we're working on.
I think with the whole challenging versus evaluating, when I hear a thought that may sound a little exaggerated, or I'm not sure if it's true, but if it's true, but it doesn't seem completely true, I'm not just going to jump in and start to try to convince them that they're wrong. So like I had a client who said, well, I don't have any friends. So I wasn't going to say, well, based on your intake, you told me about this person, this person, this person. I just want to try to figure out where they're coming from and why they've come to start thinking this or believing this. So I asked, tell me about that. Like, what makes you think you have no friends? And it turned out that it wasn't that they don't have friends, they just don't like the quality of their friendships. I have these friends, but it's superficial. It's not a really deep friendship. So it wasn't, no, well, you told me you hung out with these people the other day. Bingo, you got friends. No, it was, tell me more about that. Like, what makes you think that? Like, what is it about these people that you don't consider them friends?
Yeah, because you're actually considering where your client is right. Rather than discounting the belief off the bat, you're understanding how they can believe that and what evidence they're using to support that idea. And what you elegantly changed that to was not looking at the presence of relationships, but the depth of relationships. And that was something really to work on.